today we are going to see about Indian Constitution and human rights. These are the contents of the video. Before we go into Indian Constitution, we need to know certain characteristics of rights. The first characteristic of rights is rights are guaranteed by the state, which mean for us as individuals or citizens of a country to enjoy the right, that right has to be given or recognized by the state. The second one, rights are inalienable, which meaning no one can separate us from the right. The third one, rights are directly connected with certain amount of duties. Me as an individual, I have the right to enjoy freedom. So again, that comes with certain duty, because my freedom should not be an hindrance or an obstacle to someone else. So that is the duty of any citizen. The next one, rights are interdependent, interrelated and indivisible. For example, if we take a right to equality, other rights such as education, right to cultural, right to protect their culture, right to constitutional remedy, all these things are connected when we are talking about right to equality, because everyone is equal before the law. The next one is rights are universal, which mean all human beings, just because of the fact that they are human beings, we have these rights. So it should not be different from a community, or it should not be different between races or between countries. So these are certain characteristics of human rights or rights in general. So now let's move on to the word constitution refers to framework or principle of an organization or group of people. Here in this case it refers to India as a country. The constitution was drafted by the Constituent Assembly. The father of Indian Constitution is known as Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. This Constituent Assembly drafted this Indian Constitution for almost 114 days. It was adopted in the year 1949, November 26th. However, it came into force on January 26, 1950. That is why we celebrate every 26th of January as Republic Day. So now we know about the meaning of Constitution. Let's move on to the preamble of the Constitution. What does the preamble of Indian Constitution say? What does preamble mean? Preamble refers to preliminary or preparatory statement of a law. Here in the preamble it says, "We the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic." The words socialist and secular were added into the Constitution on 42nd Amendment. What does the word sovereign refers to? Sovereign means that Indian government or Indian people have the supreme power in the whole of the country when it comes to decision making, whether it's an internal decision or an external affair. It is the people's decision that matters. So people are the sovereign power here. And socialist refers to the social equality and economic equality that the country is talking about. Next one, secularism, or the word secular is brought in so that anyone is allowed, or the citizen of India, any citizen of India is allowed to follow any religion of his own, to practice his own faith. Democratic, we all know that a government that is run by people, run for the people, and it is made of the people. Next one, republic, again is a government or it's a country where it is led by or held by people, where the power of the government is in the people or its elected representatives. And the preamble also talks about justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. So, in the preamble, when we go through the preamble, we understand that the fathers of the Indian Constitution, or the people who drafted this Indian Constitution, they kept in mind the basic principles of human rights, that justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. If we go into the history of human rights, or the first time when the word human rights was written or was spoken in any document, was in French declaration, and that the three mantras of French declaration is life, liberty, and fraternity. And we have liberty, equality, fraternity, and justice. And so we can understand the futuristic approaches that our forefathers have used in drafting the Constitution. So now that we know about the preamble, let's look into some features of our Indian Constitution. We all know that Indian Constitution is the longest written constitution of the world. Um, because it is written constitution, it is really bulky, and there are 25 parts, 12 schedules, and more than 395 articles. The recent amendment was on January 2020. So here the part 4 and part 3 of the Indian Constitution talks about the fundamental rights and directive principles of state policies. When we're talking about fundamental rights, we need to remember certain things that happened in the world during that time. That is Second World War and the formation of United Nations, and the UDHR document, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, was written in 1948. So our fundamental rights are based on the US Bill of Rights, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So we can even say the fundamental rights of Indian Constitution is the soul of the Constitution, or it's the conscience of the Constitution, which means if you take the Constitution, if you take the fundamental rights from the Constitution, you are actually taking the soul of the Constitution out. So, saying that, let's move on to the fundamental rights that we have. There are 6 fundamental rights that are given to the citizen of India. Number 1 is right to equality. That is, everyone is equal before the law, irrespective of their race, irrespective of their community, irrespective of their caste, irrespective of their creed. Everyone is equal before the law. So this is from Article 14 to Article 18. The next one is rights of freedom, which is Article 19 to 28. Here, freedom, when we are talking about freedom, it's freedom of speech and expression, freedom to form peaceful assemblies, right to freedom of movement. All these are certain freedoms that we are allowed to enjoy. Next one is right against exploitation, which talks about trafficking in human beings, enforced labor, which again talks about child labor. All those things are covered in right against exploitation. The next one is right to freedom of religion, Article 25 to Article 28. Here, the word secular, which refers meaning anyone can practice any faith or belief, and the government doesn't have an interference in that. So the same thing, the Constitution guarantees the right to profess, practice, propagate freely, subject to public order, morality, and health. No one will be compelled to pay taxes for the purpose of promoting or maintaining any particular religion. Religious instruction in all educational institutions wholly maintained by the state is forbidden. That is, if a state is owning, or a government institution, government education institution, they cannot promote a particular religion, whereas minority institutions or institutions owned by people, they can however do it. Next one is cultural and educational rights, Article 29 to 30. The next last one is rights to constitutional remedies. So here, government has given us 5 remedies for every citizen. So saying that, and now if we analyze human rights and what we have in Indian Constitution, we have almost tried to incorporate the UDHR in the little in under 6 fundamental rights. So when we are talking about, we tend to talk about or bash about our country and our constitution, but actually we have written, our forefathers, our freedom fighters, the Constituent Assembly have put in their mind and heart and soul into it when they wrote, and it covers, or it meets the characteristics of human rights. So Indian Constitution is a human rights friendly constitution. So with that, thank you, and I'll see you in another video.